Well, good afternoon, everybody. And after a rain-soaked morning and certainly a little bit of a dry spell as well, we are back racing here in round 6 of the Euroformula Open Championship. 5.9793 kilometres lying weight of the drivers as they get set to go racing here. 16 laps, 30 minutes max to be coverage. And I tell you what, after an electrifying qualifying from Noel Leone to get us underway this weekend with a stellar lap that would take him to pole position for the 5th time consecutively this season, he's going to look to try and embody the very best of himself, much like he did at Red Bull Ring, which dealt him his best performance this season, and not to mention a very fine race weekend that would get him closer and closer to the title. But we've still got more rounds to come. We've got plenty of races to bring you, and it all starts here. My name is, of course, George Morgan. Joining me in the commentary box, it's Chris Stevens. How are you doing, Chris?
Hey, George. Yeah, looking forward to getting this one underway. A little bit later than initially scheduled. We're running about an hour behind schedule here after what seemed to be a fairly sizable incident in the TCR Europe qualifying session just now. That's now just been finished, and now we've got the cars, Euroformula cars, heading to the grid. And, you know, that in that time as well, there was a sprinkling of rain. So the track is going to be in a different state to what they were expecting. And we're still seeing little bolts of lightning in the sky. There's a big grey cloud just in front of us in the commentary box that every now and again flashes up with a big string of lightning, and a big clap of thunder shortly follows it as well. So I'm sure that every single one of these drivers is going to be keeping an eye on those clouds and if the conditions change, because I'm sure it is slightly damp still out there, but nowhere near wet weather tyres being necessary just yet.
No, and the big question is how is that weather going to impact this race? Will it impact this race? Because it is getting grayer and grayer all the time right now. We just caught sight of BVM Racing's Francesco Simonazzi. This, of course, being a home race for the Italian stallion, and he qualified P6 this morning. Not necessarily the greatest qualifying session that he could have mustered, but the good news for him is that he will be on pole for the reverse pole grid when we make our way through the weekend.
Yes, so if you're new to the Euroformula Open, we have 3 races in the weekend. The first race being set by the order of qualifying. We then take the race 1 result, flip the top 6. That gives us the race 2 grid, and then the race 3 grid is the top 6 reversed from qualifying. So Simonazzi qualifying 6th, that puts him on reverse grid pole for tomorrow's race number 3. And we saw Noel Leone just parking up there, and you alluded to Austria, George, his best performance of the nigh on a perfect weekend for him. Fastest in every practice session, put it on pole position, took the first 2 wins, and very nearly took the 3rd one as well, were it not for young Cian Shields, who denied him that perfect weekend. And yeah, as you say, it was easily his best performance of the season. And the best race as well was the race 2, when he came up from 6th to take the win in remarkable circumstances, especially when this man, Josh Dufek, kept him at bay for so long in that race. And I wonder if we might see the same again if Dufek's able to jump Noel Leone off the line. Dufek, of course, making his debut in the championship last time out. Same for this young man, Charlie Wirtz, as well. Both of them struggling to get to grips with the start systems in these Euroformula Open cars, the carbon clutches. So it is a foot clutch, unlike in, say, in the FIA Formula 3 Championship and above, where you will have the paddle clutches on the steering wheel. Below that level, you still have the traditional foot clutch, and also a very different operating system to the Formula Regional cars that they have gotten used to driving so far this season.
Yeah, Bryce Aaron, who's also in the championship fight as well, looking to try and close up on Noel Leone. We'll have a little bit of work to do today, because obviously Noel starting on pole position, Bryce Aaron starting in P4 position. There's Cian Shields, who took the victory in our last race at Red Bull Ring, and it was a reprieve really for this young man who'd had a tough weekend right through, voiced his frustrations with his team, but they had a sit down and a conversation, and of course off the back of chatting and understanding the data, Kai even said himself that he has a lot of potential, and he discovered it. And Francesco Simonazzi also is looking to discover his best form. Arguably was electrifying here last year, be looking to try and clamber to yet greater results, larger stages of grandeur here for Simonazzi, who definitely does deserve something great out of this championship. Got his first race win in the Euroformula Open Championship back at Red Bull Ring last season. And another statement love heart there from Francesco as he looks to get set to go racing. And the newcomer to the series, Levente Ravesh, stepping in, the Hungarian who competed in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine over the past 2 seasons, including this season. He has now made the jump across to drive the Dallara 320 chassis, moving away from the Tartus, and is now going to look to try and hone his skills in this very championship. And he's also now going to have to utilize the new clutch system.
And those claps of thunder, they're getting more and more intense and closer together. The weather is coming in from sort of the direction of the final corner to then sweep across the track. So if the rain does start coming in, it'll be pretty close to the grid. And indeed, where our commentary box position is just by the podium across the finish line.
Well, highlights from Red Bull Ring, and race 1 got off, and it was a hellacious start indeed. Obviously, we had a couple of stallers on the grid. A few cars struggled to get away, Charlie Wirtz being one of them, but getting off the line quickly, Noel Leone, as he has done all season long. Vladimir Neteschil, though, proved to be the thorn in the side of many, as did Paolo Brajnik, who was trying to defend valiantly against Francesco Simonazzi, who powered on through. But no one could stop Noel Leone in the first of 2 race wins that weekend. Nigh on perfect, he came across the line and took victory in race 1. Race 2 got underway, and Charlie Wirtz this time was on the front row of the grid, trying to hustle his way forward, just could not quite get the jump. A really major moment, though, however. Bryce Aaron getting spun with Francesco Simonazzi at Remus Corner at turn 3, and therefore the battling would resume as well, this time with Noel Leone's motorpark car going down the inside of Simonazzi at Slosh Gold. Noel Leone, though, in an impressive display, would make it an absolutely immense 2 from 2 in his most dominating win to date. Race 3, slightly different this time. It was very closely fought and a big getaway. All 3 cars there between rows 1 and 2 got away very strongly. Noel Leone once again showing what he was made of as he dashed down the inside of Jakob Bergmeister. Bergmeister was trying to lead the way. We saw more side-by-side action with Charlie Wirtz also trying to lunge forward as the sun started to dip low at Red Bull Ring. The drivers were trying to fight for every space of track they could find. We then found an inside move here for Joshua Dufek in his very first weekend, but it was Cian Shields who took the plaudits and the race win, with Noel Leone finishing in P2 and Bryce Aaron in P3. Well, here's what it's done to the championship. Noel Leone, 278 points now. Cian Shields, 217, with Bryce Aaron now in 3rd instead of the 2nd, where he came into the weekend at Red Bull Ring. Francesco Simonazzi in 4th ahead of Juju Noda, with Jakob Bergmeister in behind those. And then we're going to get set, ready for racing. Here at the Temple of Speed, Monza is about to give us yet another chapter. Noel Leone starts on pole position, front row alongside Josh Dufek in 2nd place. Charlie Wirtz in 3rd, with Bryce Aaron lining up on 4th. 5th place would then go to Cian Shields, who of course won that last race at Red Bull Ring. Francesco Simonazzi will start from 2nd on row 3. Levente Ravesh, in his first start, his debut here, lines up at the back of the grid.
And we do have a delayed start, George, and I imagine that is because the heavens have just opened here at Monza. It is starting to rain, and I imagine that they want to delay the start to give these guys a chance to switch over to wet tyres. We may well need them.
I think we will. Just look at that, folks. The pictures tell all. Of course, it was thundering down yesterday. We were stood in the garages, actually, when we were in the pit lane, and we could hear it thundering down. And once again, we've got it here. Start confirmed delay. So the wet tyres are definitely going to be in the equation now. And this is where we talk about race management, especially at a track such as Monza, with the long straights, heavy braking zones. And they're going to be starting, in fact, behind the safety car.
That's, yeah, interesting call. So it will be a rolling start. And now, will they be able to switch over to wet tyres in that time as well? Of course, not just nervous times for the drivers, nervous for everybody watching on as well. Must be awful to be in these kind of situations. But yeah, this is going to make things interesting. I think it's really started hammering it down. We have barely had a dry spell, well, all week here at Monza. When we arrived yesterday, it was still absolutely hammering it down. and you know, big lightning storms and thunderstorms. And this morning we had a relatively dry spell with some actual blue sky, but that has very quickly vanished. And the rain was forecast to come forward this afternoon. It has arrived, I must say, a little bit earlier than expected. But to be honest, every forecast we've looked at has said a different thing. And, well, the fact of the matter is, it's raining right now.
It is, and as you can see, everyone's reaching for their umbrellas and trying to take tuck and cover at this point. But good to see the smiles are still on the faces of those watching on as we take a look inside the garage. And we get set to go racing, that's for sure. It's going to be a big decision, naturally, for the drivers and teams, perhaps thinking things through. Do we jump onto the wet? So that question, it surely has to be the case. The water now starting to come down on top of the circuit. You can hear the rumble of thunder. In fact, it turned the heads of many people, including those in the grandstands. Quite a major moment. The marshals themselves are obviously just awaiting to go out and ducking and covering underneath the trees. But we'll have to wait and see as to what is decided. Just trying to see if there's any movements from the teams.
It's a bit too far away for us to peek out the window and have a look at, unfortunately, which George is trying to find an interesting angle to try and peek out the window. The trouble is, it's the start line is much further up than where we are in the box.
I mean, I can tell you this, Chris, is that this isn't working, whatever I'm doing, but I can tell you that. All I can see is flashing lights, obviously the rain lights on the back of the car.
Okay, great.
That's my update for you, Chris.
All right, thank you for that insight. Now we can see the grid. I mean, there doesn't seem to be much of a hurry in getting the wet tyres ready, because by the looks of it, they're still on slicks. But of course, most of the equipment's back in the garage, isn't it?
Well, the squirrels certainly haven't been dampened here. They are very much enjoying the show here at Monza, and given the time of year, another flash of light there as the lightning comes through.
They have a death wish, them squirrels, because they one ran out in front of our car this morning on the way into the track.
Well, we had Red Bull Ring. We had one in front of our own car when we came in this morning to Monza. So I'm not sure what it is, but I don't know. Squirrels these days, hey? Incredible. The fans, though, not dampened at all. They've all got their brollies out waiting on in what has to be described as one of the most bizarre starts we have probably had in a long while here in the Euroformula Open Championship. But the weather does dictate on many an occasion. As you can see, the puddles of water starting to build up there on the curbs. And naturally, that's not ideal because obviously, as you can see, you can tell from there, in fact, the slick tyres are very much present on that of Simonazzi's car. And, you know, you are going to be trepidatious, aren't you, about going onto the wet tyres, you know, especially at the start of this, when the rain has only just literally come down at this very point. Of course you're going to go for the slick tyre when you start.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, this rain could end in the next minute or so, and actually being on slicks would be the best thing to go. Of course, no tyre changes, no mid-race tyre changes anyway in the Euroformula Open. You only have to... Oh, well, now we are going to get it because it's been declared you have to change to wet tyres. And if we're starting behind the safety car, that makes perfect sense. So suddenly the teams are going to have to bring out those wet tyres and change them on the grid. It has been declared mandatory to have them on for the start of this race.
Race control stepping in and making the key decisions as we'd expect. And we've already obviously been displayed the start behind safety car message. And in come the wet tyres. Motor Park already now wheeling out their selection. Of course, the trolleys full to the brim with wet tyres, and also the slicks there you can see on the bottom as supplied by Pirelli. And they'll be making those necessary changes now, including some front wings being moved onto the track. That could be for the downforce, you'd imagine. Perhaps they're looking to perhaps adjust some of the setup heading in towards a wet race. So you can see there the front wings on display, including that of Charlie Wirtz's, and also you can see Joshua Dufek's, 23 of Bryce Aaron as well. So interesting to note that that's what they're doing. And that just goes to show the hard work and preparation these guys put in. Of course, we had a very damp practice session as well leading into the weekend. And of course, FP1 was taken by Francesco Simonazzi, 146.197 for BVM Racing. Of course, the sole car entered by BVM as it was last season, ran by team boss Giuseppe Mazzotti. And then we have free practice 2, where Josh Dufek came out on top for Crypto Tower, a 155.832. So there we go. The message confirmed to you all. It's mandatory to change to wet tyres, and they're allowed to go onto the grid now. Do they want to turn the noses upside down? Because surely that's going to be pooling with water if they hold them upside like that for too long. Very good observation, Chris.
Yes. That's why they pay me the medium bucks.
Fantastic. We'll let Motor Park know of your insights later on. But yes, no.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll welcome that feedback. Yeah.
I'll be honest. Well, every team values feedback, but yeah, I mean, look, I mean, necessary changes, of course, under these, you know, circumstances when the rain is falling from the sky, the track is going to be very greasy. It's better to have some extra grooves on those tyres. You can just see the difference in between that of the slick and the groove tyres.
So this is going to be the first time we've seen the Pirelli wet tyre in action. Well, primarily because we haven't had any wet weather running so far this season until this weekend. But also because, of course, Pirelli had to come in mid-season. We initially started the season on Hankook tyres, but of course, owing to the factory fire they weren't able to supply for the remainder of the season. So after the first round, Pirelli stepped in and were able to provide their tyres for the remainder of this season. And it looks like that's going to be a long-standing relationship between Pirelli and the Euroformula Open Championship. But this is slightly new territory now. Of course, they will have had some testing earlier in the week. And of course, Friday practice as well, which was quite wet, wasn't it? Yes, it was FP2 was the real damp one, wasn't it? With Josh Dufek was fastest in that session. So
yes. Yeah.
Just give you like a bit of insight. The drier session, they were in the 146s. Pole this morning was in the 144s.
Yeah.
In the wet yesterday, they were doing 155s. So quite a big difference in performance there.
Yeah, Noleone clutching to his umbrella in an attempt to stay dry. As you can understand, hello Noel. Looks still keen to race, you know, I think at this point, and obviously just keen, I think, just to get the ball rolling. We have got the message coming out as well, 13:52, which is where we are now, incidentally. 5-minute board has been raised, so it's just going to give the teams enough of a chance to get those tyres changed, maybe get those wings adjusted as well. And we'll then be back underway. You can just see there Kai working hard on Noel's car on the right-hand side. And there, of course, we have Joshua Dufek, who's getting set, and race engineers at the ready, just having a last few words with Josh Dufek.
It would be so easy at this point as well, because you weren't expecting to use these tyres to get the pressures wrong or something, have them slightly outside the window or even outside the legal window as well. It would be so easy to make a mistake like that at this point. And there we see that checking the pressures now, making sure that they're getting done and checked over. You know, can't rush it, even though we are imminently getting underway. And of course, for the drivers, the formation lap is going to be incredibly important, because this will be the only opportunity they have to explore the grip conditions. Listen to the thunder. You can hear it there, and this is the kind of weather that's heading our way at the moment. And of course, we've got no idea what the rest of the track looks like at the moment. So it's going to be on a voyage of discovery before, in your words, George, they put pedal to the metal. Absolutely.
And obviously, in this scenario, Monza has obviously delivered many a spicy race in the past. We've yet to have a driver go, should we say, well, have more than one win over a Monza weekend. The last person to do that was Lucas Dunner back in 2020 for the Crypto Tower team, taking race 2 and race 3. The driver prior to him was Felipe Drugovic, who completed the weekend with a 100% record, 2 race wins through the 2 races they had that weekend as well. So an opportunity potentially for Noleone if he could convert pole to victory. Obviously, he's still got to get to the start-finish line. It could be somebody else. It could be Josh Dufek, who performed brilliantly under these conditions over the practice session in FP2. So who is the best in the wet? We'll soon find out, as now we see the garage teams and crews enter back into the pit lane. As we've said, a delayed start today due to the issues in a prior race with the TCR, well, qualifying session, where they had a red flag that unfortunately was unfurled, and therefore it has delayed proceedings slightly. So we are a little bit behind schedule, ladies and gentlemen, but it's great to have you all on board with us here at the Temple of Speed. Motor Park team boss, Timo Rumpf Kyle, personally carrying Charlie Verse's front wing back to the garage.
See, he knows how to carry a front wing. It was on the side there, see? They should have listened.
Yeah, there you go. Listen. Always listen to Chris Stevens, ladies and gentlemen. If there's anything to go by from what we've been told. one of them's actually tipped the nose right round.
Yeah, yeah, they both have.
Yeah, so there we go. But yes, all the tyres now that have been removed, the dries now have become wets. Those tyres are now going to be making their way back into the pit boxes, and we'll be getting back underway very, very shortly. Starting behind the safety car, we are moments away from putting pedal to the metal, away from a fan there as well.
Great
the spirit's
to see.
Not dampened.
I was just going to say, it hasn't dampened the spirits of the Italian fans at all.
No, and of course, this is the home of the Tifosi. I'd imagine they'll all be cheering on Francesco Simonazzi, the Italian who's going to look to try and perhaps notch himself a race win at Monza on the lapel. The 1 minute board has been raised by the Marshals Race Control as well, standing by Neo Santa Maria, also waiting to get us underway too. Of course, there's been a strong presence in the Euroformula Open grid for quite some time, as well as part of the GT Sport organisation. Safety car in position as the drivers sit in wait on the grid. You must think those tensions, the pensiveness, the nerves prior to getting yourself off the line, when you're held on that grid spot for this entire time, you get a lot of those what-ifs start to enter your mindset. It's all about blocking those out, isn't it?
Absolutely. So not just the delay to the schedule we've already had, but then the delay to the starting procedure as well. They've just been sat there for ages wanting to get going. And yeah, I'm sure nerves are jagging at this point. But we are going to get underway very shortly.
Yeah, just a quick reminder, folks, as well, given the fact that this championship has taken us on a mighty trip. We started off at Portimao. Noleon would go on to take P3 in the first race. He got his first victory in the championship in race 3 back then. He made it 2 wins after he went to Spa and took the opening race victory there, along with 2 podiums. Took a race win at Hungaroring. His best performance at Paul Ricard was a P2 in race 3, but then he had that magical weekend at Red Bull Ring that granted him the top of the championship with 277 points to boot, ahead of that of Cian Shields, who's on 217, which only means to say that if he manages to pull out some incredible results here this weekend and also potentially at Mugello, he could be crowned champion very, very soon.
He really could. Yeah, Mugello, I think, is probably the weekend where it'll happen, assuming nothing goes terribly wrong for him this weekend. So just confirmation, the clock from 30 minutes, which is the maximum time for this race, has started. The lap count is at 1, which means that this lap under the safety car will count as part of the race distance, so no formation lap. And I've just been told that the rain has moved over to another part of the circuit where it's absolutely booning it down, but it's stopped raining in other parts of the circuit. It looks like it's still raining where we are at the moment, but they're really going to be facing some challenging conditions here.
Mixed conditioned racing. We of course saw the rain thundering down here over the start-finish line here live on the grid, but the other segment of the track, look at the deluge coming through the Lesmo, which isn't ideal because Lesmo 1 and 2, we've seen a couple of cars, of course, in practice and qualifying, miss a step from time to time. Again, with more rain on the circuit, that's obviously not going to be useful. Obviously, the wets are going to be so useful at this point, given the fact that we have the water now starting to cascade over the circuit. You just see it over the curbs as well. They make their way down Serralio. But the funny thing is, when you take yourself away from the Lesmo, I was going to say it looks a lot better, but no, has to be said, it's still coming down.
Trick of the camera there, George, I think, because, yeah, it's pretty treacherous out there, I'd say, and it's not fantastic where we are either. It's lighter than that, I'd say, on this end of the circuit towards the front straight. But certainly, yeah, towards the back end of the circuit now with the Lesmos and around Ascari, it is absolutely treacherous. Listen to that. So, well, I feel bad for poor old Levente Ravesh, because in his first Euroformula race start, you're probably not going to see a thing down towards the first corner.
No, of course, you've got the spray. If you're the front runner at this point, you have got the benefit of essentially, I mean, what you could describe as a clean view. Those behind, though, are going to suffer just a little bit with visibility. So you can just see the spray now starting to kick up in front of Joshua Dufek. Noleon will control the pace, though, as they make their way through towards Curva Alboreto to get us underway here at Monza. Monza. And you can see all the teams now waiting in the garage. Team around Kyle as well as the engineers as they make their way out of the final corner and down towards the line with the safety car that is going to be certainly taking us round yet again. Soon we will see it come back in, folks, should the weather subside. But at this point, it continues.
Yeah, it did look like that the safety car was going to come in, but of course the lights are still on. I think Noel was just practicing the start procedure there, like how long he was going to let the safety car go for and what he could get away with in terms of launching it off the line. But they're getting a second lap at the moment to feel out the race conditions. Rather amusingly, it still comes up on our timing screen that Noel Leon set the fastest lap of the race, 3 minutes 28.438.
Could be in line for fastest lap of the race as well, the way it's carrying on as well. Could you imagine? Safety car coming in towards Rettifilio now, and the cars lining up in behind. Charlie Wirtz will be looking for a big jump as well as we take a look at him on screen. If we remember back, of course, he suffered that false start at Red Bull Ring, where the car just did not quite get off the line quick enough, getting used to, obviously, the start control system that is in place here in the Dallara 320 chassis. A little different from what these drivers have challenged in the past, that, of course, being Josh Dufek, Levente Ravesh using it for the very first time this weekend. But given the fact that it's a rolling start, they won't have to worry about that necessarily.
No, he's got it off the line now, so it's fine. It's amazing. The camera was pointed one way, and you think, wow, it stopped raining. That actually looks quite good. And it pans to the other side, and it's just absolutely pouring it down. So goes to show that it's not always what it looks like on television screen, unfortunately. But yeah, certainly, I think a second lap, quite a good decision there.
Yeah. Well, the safety car still with its lights on as they venture through the Lesmo, and Noel Leon will take them through still. Of course, under safety car ruling, you must stay in line with one another. Of course, no position changes are permitted. And obviously, given the fact now that they have a chance under the safety car, they can try and get as much heat as they can into the tyres. Does provide them with an opportunity. Essentially, multiple formation laps is what we've got at our feet at this moment. They come down Serralio, with the safety car now taking them through. Noel Leon leading ahead of the field, and Wirtz aggressively warming up his tyres, as did Joshua Dufek, as they take the run down in towards Ascari. Further back, you can see there's Simonazzi as well, just trying to break out of the way of the spray, and again back into warming his tyres, ready for the start. Because we got to see Simonazzi at his brilliant best when it comes to utilising a wheel system, when it comes to qualifying, getting in amongst the wet conditions, just toying with that car. You know, it was so phenomenal to see getting that tail out at Ascari. Yeah,
you think Simonazzi's driving style is flamboyant in the dry conditions. I can't wait to see what it's going to be like in these conditions. I think it's going to be all over the shop, I'm sure of it. But Simonazzi, great driver to watch in one of these cars. One of the last single-seaters you can drive, or, well, contemporary single-seaters anyway, that weighs less than 600 kilograms. And that's what makes it, A, such a brilliant car to drive and so popular among the drivers, but B, why we get such fantastic racing with it. And unfortunately, George, it doesn't look like the safety car is coming in on this lap either.
No, it looks like it's going around. Lights still flashing on top of the safety car, and as a result, the cars in behind, of course, being led by Noel Leon, will have to continue for yet another lap. The conditions just not quite ample enough to go racing just yet as they head through the curve of Alboreto, and they'll make their way down the long straight still. But taking a look at this, of course, we can speak about the likes of Levente Ravesh, who has now stepped in to this series. 2016 to 2020 competed in karting. Of course, Italian F4 then the season after that in 2021, where he would, of course, then after that tackle the Formula Regional Asian Championship as well as the Formula Regional European Championship, taking that championship again the following season as a competitor in that same year as well, tackling the Formula Regional Middle Eastern Championship, and now sees him enter the world of the Euroformula Open Championship with its Dallara 320 chassis, a car that he can get, no doubt, excited about. Every driver we have had that have come into this championship love and know this car, and it certainly does offer some special racing, and we saw much of that back at Red Bull Ring, Chris.
No, we certainly did. Now look at this, Charlie Wirtz trying some different lines at the first chicane there. You see he went super wide of the apex in both times and then darted to the inside on the exit. So I'm sure we're all familiar in the wet. You try the karting line, which is where you move away from the traditional racing line and pick up where all the, the grit and dirt and basically debris that gets discarded. Safety car is going to be in this lap, so we will have 13, hopefully, green flag laps of running, but we'll be getting underway at the end of this lap. But yes, as you move away from normally where all the debris ends up, and in the wet, it's actually got more grip because the rubbered in line, when you put water on top of it, becomes very slippery in comparison. So that's why you see what is often referred to as the karting line. It's where it's most utilized. But of course, it's not the same rule for every corner. It's not a case of, well, you always have to be off the racing line. Sometimes the racing line still has really good grip. So that's why you see drivers using these laps to explore different lines and try to see where the grip is going to be.
Yeah, well, the safety car still takes them round, but we have got confirmation it is coming in this lap. So now, with that time whittled down, it's down to the drivers to make sure that they are amply prepared for when we go racing very, very shortly. We've already taken out a couple of laps already under yellow flag conditions. Very soon, though, those flag colours will change to green, and we will be back underway here in the Euroformula Open Championship with a small matter of 9 races to go, including this one in the title fight. At the very top end, as we take a look.
Has Cian Shields got a damaged front wing somehow underneath the safety car? Because look at the right-hand side as we were looking at of the front wing. It seemed to be flapping around a bit. We just saw it on the last couple of shots there, but it looks askew.
Well,
maybe we'll get a closer look at it later.
Not quite sure. The safety car still persists. We haven't seen anything necessarily that would have caused anything, I think, on our broadcast cameras, but just taking a view at it, maybe something might have happened. Of course, the drivers vigorously warming up their tyres, weaving from side to side. Leon now really slowing them down to a slower pace as he gets set to get us underway for what we can essentially call a restart. We've already had our start under the safety car procedure. With 16 laps to go at that time, we're now down to 14 mere laps only. Leon, as I said, leading the title fight. 5 wins in his locker, 11 podiums have led him to this point with 5 pole positions that granted him the front row place heading into this race this afternoon. Can he take home yet another race win and make it a magical 6 in his quest for the title? And now rounding the Kerber Alboreto, flicking the rear out on his car. The Mexican makes his way through. Just look at them skipping through the surface. And here at Monza, for the first time in 2023, we're going to put pedal to the metal. And they go, 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 go. And as soon as they get underway, it is Leon who takes them down the home straight, leading down towards the rectilinear chicane with Josh Dufek now alongside him, who looks to try and take him immediately. Coming in towards turn 1, the water being kicked up the spray. Charlie Wirtz in behind as well, but Leon consolidating the lead. Wirtz has to cut away off the circuit. Further back as well, Bryce Aaron, Cian Shields, Francesco Simonazzi as they ram Curva Grande. It's still Leon in front.
Yeah, Wirtz came out in front, but he's had to relinquish those 2 places to Leon and Joshua Dufek. A great launch for Dufek. He went with Leon very well, and Leon will want to keep Dufek in his mirrors if he possibly can, because not only was Dufek fastest in the wet session yesterday, he was also the man who kept him at bay for so long last time out at the Red Bull Ring, as we see them struggling for grip through the second chicane. But Leon looks pretty good and settled now.
Yeah, very much settled indeed. Dufek thought he might have his chance heading down the long straight. Certainly did give it a good go. They were both fighting the cars heading out to Kerber Alboreto as they got themselves started. And yes, the damage, Chris. It's clear Cian Shields' up front wing is flapping on the left-hand side. Let's take a closer look. Yes!
Oh, it's gone even worse now. How on earth has he done that? Did he run into Bryce under the safety car, perhaps? It's the only thing I can think, or he's damaged it on a curb, perhaps. Simonazzi looking up the inside here to try and clear the damaged Cian Shields. Dufek's caught right back up to Leon. Oh, that's why, because Leon had a massive swapper out of the second Lesbo, as did Charlie Wirtz. God, the spray is getting even worse. It's absolutely hammering it down. And did Dufek even make the corner? It looked like he was heading for the runoff area. No, he did make it work, but man, these guys are really proving their worth in these conditions.
Yeah, committing to the cause here in the Euroformula Open Championship and committing to the car as well. Dufek still trying to hunt down Leone. Heading down this long straight now, they've got Rettifilio to take. Charlie Wirtz, you can see in the distance, just waiting in the wings. Just look at the spray being kicked up as they head down towards the home straight. We've got the Rettifilio coming up, of course, a heavy braking zone. The Mexican, though, Leone, cautiously takes the car through. Another car escaping off at the back. I think that was Bryce Aaron who had to cut away, and now he's having to weave through the bollards that separate that of the chicane and, of course, the circuit. And there you can see now under blue flag conditions, Simonazzi makes his way through.
Yeah, Kean Shields did the same thing, and yeah, because they have to take such a tight line through those bollards, they've ended up losing out. So Simonazzi, I think, up to 4th now, yes.
Yeah, Simonazzi up to 4th place. He has a little gap to find, though, on Charlie Wirtz, who sits in 3rd place right now, 1.4 off that of Joshua Dufek. Currently sits in 2nd. We see some tape fluttering around on the track. Nothing to be concerned of too much. I mean, obviously the drivers will certainly have use of the tearaways on the front of their helmets. I'd imagine they'll be getting some use this time around as well. Leone heading out of the 2nd Lesmo and down the Seraglio straight in behind. You can see Dufek currently dialed into the rear wing of Leone's car. Of course, the wet weather resuming. We mentioned, of course, that it was a playing factor in free practice 2. And Leone now makes his way through Ascari, trepidatious no less, heading through damp conditions such as these. Over the curbs they go, and you can just see there a little bit of movement coming from Dufek's car, who tries to keep it under control.
Yeah, doing a great job, and Simonazzi a little wide there in Ascari, and he was really, really pushing it there in qualifying. I mean, this is torrential now. Look at that. I have never seen anything quite like it, and frankly I'm astounded that they're keeping it on track. Although, as I said, it's Simonazzi very nearly found the runoff area there. I think had he dipped his wheels onto that green sort of, fake grasscrete or whatever they like to call it, he probably would have found the gravel trap and then the barriers.
Well, someone behind Noel there is Josh Dufek. You can just see the guys of the car just getting in and out of the spray, just dodging and weaving to the left and right as he now looks for his entrance into the Rettifilio chicane and dials it in nicely. Charlie Wirtz as well, just rumbling over those curves a little bit. Just ran a little wide, I think, but okay, nothing to be concerned about. As he now makes his way through towards Curva Grande. Leone takes them through now. Josh Dufek in 2nd. Gap now sits at 1.8 seconds, and I can tell you that Leone on the previous run, 38.5 in Sector 1. That becomes a 38.6. So not losing too much in terms of deltas. Josh Dufek improving in that first sector and looking for more.
But Leone on that previous lap was more than a second faster than Joshua Dufek, and we've got the safety car back out, and I can only imagine that that is for the conditions that we are now seeing, because the weather that was moving towards the Lesmos that sort of swept back across where Ascari was, and we saw absolutely torrential rain. It's coming down massively in front of our commentary box as well, and this is, I imagine, a safety call here.
Yeah, absolutely right. We just have to take a look at the graphs. I mean, the humidity in the last 3 hours has taken a huge jump from the 59.8s that we experienced first thing this morning up to a gargantuan 80.2, which is absolutely outrageous at this point as well. And naturally,
wow.
There we can see the cars, not even under race conditions now, because we've got yellow flags and the spray still being kicked up off the circuit.
You can't see Dufek at all. You maybe just see the front tyre there, but look at that, even under safety car, he's losing it under braking. He's just aquaplaning at this point. And yeah, I'd want to be staying well away from any of those white lines and painted curbs in these conditions. So obviously the hope is that the weather will clear up before the time lapses. We've still got just under 13 minutes left to run this race, but another 10 laps to go, and we're back under safety car conditions. And man, George, I'm really glad I brought an umbrella today.
You did better than me on that front, Chris. But yes,
you haven't even brought a jacket, which was ambitious of you.
I'm always I'm a very positive thinking person when it comes down to weather. But hey, at the end of the day, the car's now brought down to a steady speed, and we've got the safety car procedure now in front of us, and with 12 minutes and 15 to go. that is what lies in wait. As now we make our way through Curva Grande, Noel Leone takes us along, and that is the current state of affairs, folks.
You see Verts have a massive wipe of his visor just then as well. Can't see a thing.
Well, this is where the tear-offs come into play very much at this point.
Yeah, plenty of them strewn around the circuit. They've been running over them all race.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a little, well, we saw a caption of one heading through the Lesmo section. Marshals also underneath the umbrellas, waving the yellow flags at this point, as you'd expect. Heading in towards the Rogier, and the safety car takes them down to a steady pace. And Leon waiting in behind, along with the rest of the grid.
And this is when we're really, really grateful for the marshals, because it's one thing to volunteer your time to help motor racing happen in the best of conditions, but to be out there in this at the moment is certainly commitment. And of course, these conditions, it makes it more likely that an incident is going to happen, of course, and then the marshals will be more needed. So obviously a great time to thank them for their support, as always. We can't go racing without them.
No, and the Euroformula has come here to Monza for regularly in its history, and of course very much part of the GT Sport organisation. GT Sport themselves have been, or made sure that their weekends have certainly encapsulated Monza in their championships as well. The calendar has always reflected Monza, and we've had many great races here in the past, and many great winners too, including Lada Felipe Drugovich back in 2018 for RP Motorsport. Harrison Scott did exactly the same the season prior, taking both race wins. Leonardo Polcini, who of course won the GT Open Championship last season under the GT Sport organisation. He had of course winning in the Euroformula Open back in 2016 on 2 occasions at this very circuit. And the same can be said as well for the double from Sandy Stuvik, of course representing the RP Motorsport team. Vita Baptiste and Dominio for Avanti also took a victory back in 2015. RP Motorsport in their dominant time here at the Euroformula Open Championship would go on to take multiple race wins here at Monza. Of course, back in 2012, they did the double with Nicolo Schiro, who is a current driver, of course, in the International GT Open. And take a look at this.
Sorry, Josh. They've completely fanned out across the track just to have any chance of seeing anything.
Truly unbelievable. The weather really, I mean, when we were talking about it earlier on, there was a lot of discussion around the paddock as to what the decisions would be in terms of how we would manage the racing, you know, what will be decided, what are the teams thinking, what are the drivers thinking, because of course we're under no illusions. Despite the fine weather we had this morning for qualifying, there was always that factor in the back of our mind: will we see rain this weekend over the course of racing? And many of the drivers were unknown in terms of what to expect in terms of the wet weather. So you can imagine the scenarios that are going over their heads right now. You know, what's going to happen? I mean, without a doubt, it's got to be wet tyres. But at the same time, you know, it's management of this situation, you know, with the rain coming down, the water on the circuit. I mean, just look at the difference from where we got started during this broadcast.
Well, George, think about 2 hours ago,
yeah,
while we were in the paddock, and it was blue sky.
Yeah.
Beautiful sunshine.
Incredible.
And all the weather that had not been promised all weekend, because we've been checking the forecast all week long, expecting this kind of weather to be absolutely non-stop and relentless, and at least we did get a relatively nice morning out of it, but it has come, and it has come in spades.
It certainly has done, and certainly not an ideal start, but obviously with Noel Leone up the front, he won't be too concerned under the safety car conditions, because it does mean no overtaking permitted. He can stick to the lead, hold on to the front, and we make our way now with 9 laps still to go here in this race through towards Curva Grande. Of course, he's looking to join a plethora of great drivers that have won the championship in the past. We speak about Ollie Goethe from last season, Cameron Dass, Yi Fei, Marino Sato, Felipe Drugovich, Harrison Scott, Leonardo Polcini, Vita Baptista, Sandy Stuvik, Ed Jones, Nicolo Schiro, Alex Fontana. Many drivers that have obviously become crowned here in this wonderful championship. Also, you've got to look to Liam Lawson, who was a runner-up here in the Euroformula Open Championship since making his debut in Formula One with AlphaTauri, alongside that of Yuki Tsunoda, who was also part of the Euroformula Open Championship. So great to see the graduates making their way through the tiered system and now at the ultimate of motorsport in Formula One. And of course, this circuit that also plays host to the Italian Grand Prix. Of course, on this occasion, we're experiencing vastly different conditions that they faced during the Grand Prix weekend, Chris.
Yeah, well, you can say that again, George. That is absolutely true, isn't it? And yeah, of course, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Monza and the fact that it's not quite as green as it once was because of weather like this that has uprooted so much of the park forest around us. And luckily, they have been able to start replanting. I hope this doesn't wash those efforts away, basically. But I'm just having a check, George, about about whether we can classify a race, because we have had a number of laps under safety car, but I think we've only had 2 under green flag conditions, and so I'm just checking if points will actually be awarded for this one.
That'd be interesting. I mean, obviously, it could be a huge, you know, a huge decisive point where it comes down to the title fight. Obviously, with Leone at the top of the championship, if he does take the victory and points that go with it, it brings him another step closer to that title. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when we come towards the end. Obviously, we've still got 9 racing laps still to go. Safety car taking us through. Of course, we're still waiting to, well, to find out whether we will have a restart. But, of course, at this stage, no changes under yellow flags. And once again, they fan out, heading down the long straight towards the Curva Alboreto, just to avoid that spray that is being flicked up. And obviously the drivers trying to give themselves as good a visibility as possible. We have got a timer change here. We're coming down now. The timer has been changed down to 5 minutes and 38 seconds. So it's going to be a timed race at this point. So laps will be taken out of the equation because we still had, prior to the time change, 9 laps still to go. We're now only going to have another 5 minutes and 20 as we are currently under the safety car. You can see that from the top left of your screen, folks, as the safety car once again takes us on for another lap.
Yes, obviously the 30-minute time limit that we have here, and it's pretty clear that we're going to hit the time limit before we get anywhere near the race distance, or the intended race distance anyway. So still Leone ahead, on course for what will be a 6th victory of the season, and his 3rd in 4 races as well. So mightily impressive, and this is why we're talking about Leone moving up to FIA Formula 3 next year, because he has just proven that he's got what it takes.
He does, and I think if anything to go by was the race 2 at Red Bull Ring, where of course he fought his way all the way towards the rear of the field, right back up to the very top, and after a dazzling display that even he admittedly said was his best race of the season, that put him in certainly contention for the title, and of course furthermore certainly strengthen his grip on the title. He carries on the way he's going. He's got a bright future, this young man, and with what he's laid down already in Euroformula, it certainly has been spectacular. Currently in front of Joshua Dufek in their 2nd weekend of Euroformula racing, along with Charlie Wirtz as well. Only their 2nd weekend in action here in this championship. Francesco Simonazzi, of course, one of the long-term professionals, of course, who competed last season through its entirety. Also made a few sporadic appearances the season before. Of course, held in high acclaim and high esteem by Giuseppe Mazzotti. Had his own Formula 3 run out at this very track as well. We'll allude to the fact that that was a lot drier than this. And of course, Levente Ravesh, who moves across on his very first weekend and under such trying conditions. I suppose the only man who probably feels at home here is Cian Shields, because it rains a lot in Scotland, no doubt.
You're allowed to say that because you're a Welshman. Because you know the struggle. Well, I know the struggle as well. I was hoping to get away from the
I live in the mountains, Chris. I live in the mountains. We get all sorts of rain up there.
Well, no,
I
was hoping to get away from the British weather for a weekend, and sadly we brought it with us. But I'm not hopeful of us getting back underway anytime soon, unfortunately. So it looks like it will be a finish behind the safety car with less than 3 minutes on the clock. Just to give you an indication of how cautiously they're having to take it. Obviously, it was 2:01 for Leone once he got going, and they're currently doing 3:55s behind the safety car. Can we just talk about that lap when we did actually get the full green flag running, and Leone in a single lap pulled 1.2 seconds? on Josh Dufek. I mean, that is some performance. That's confidence as well.
You look at his season as time has gone on. Obviously, at the very start at Portimao, I mean, claiming the P3 in race 1 was vitally important. As we take a very, very nice shot of the safety car coming through Ascari. And, well, in fact, I think this is the Rettifilio, in fact, coming through this first point with Norleone in behind and Josh Dufek, Charlie Wirtz, Simonazzi as well. Just coasting the car around. Unfortunately, can't get the tail out on this occasion, Francesco. But nevertheless, still great to see him out and about. And Levente Ravesh in his first weekend. The helmet, of course, dedicated to his home country of Hungary. Heading through the Lesmo sections now. But yes, he's had a fantastic season, Norleone. And you look at where he started, of course, those results have only got stronger and stronger as time has gone on. And we hear lots of great things about the Mexican and how he offers so much to his engineers and his team.
What's astonishing as well is obviously he had probably the best credentials of any of the drivers going into this season, with 2 Formula 4 titles under his belt from the North and Central American Championship and the US Championship as well. And yet he's still finding new heights and new ways to be even better. So, you know, he's probably still far from the finished article.
Yeah.
But the amount of potential this young lad is showing is just astonishing. And we do now have a red flag and less than a minute left on the clock. And I have a feeling that is going to be an end to proceedings.
Yeah, absolutely. The red flag out and the cars will be brought back into the pit lane. So one more lap in behind the safety car to take them through into the garages, and we're very soon here as to what decision is made. A bit of a head scratch here for the race stewards here, Chris.
Yes, well, for now, it's Norleone and Josh Dufek and Charlie Wirtz who will have the top 3. Yeah, I have a feeling they might well award some points for this, because we did at least get a couple of laps in there under green flag conditions.
Yeah, heading through Curva Grande, and the spray still being kicked up. The rain certainly has shown no signs of stopping. As I'm looking at my commentary box window at the home straight, you can just see it bouncing off the circuit, and it's still coming down in an abundance. We, like I said, we did have really nice conditions earlier on today. When we came in this morning, it was blissful, the sun was shining, and heading into qualifying, it actually looked really, really calm, really, really, well, really, really bright, really. Not a cloud in the sky, in fact. But as the weekend, or certainly this race has certainly, well, this Saturday has certainly drawn onwards. We've been witnessing the storm clouds ferrying their way over, and since then the rain has come clashing down. So here at this point, red flag, and the safety car is going to take them through the middle sector and then through the latter sector here at Monza, before then making its way into the pit lane, which should bring proceedings to an end.
There are 3 bottles of champagne on the podium, which is just in front of us, sat there ready for the drivers to take as we have the results. But I imagine the cork is going to be soaked through by the time they get to them.
Well, let's take you through the race 1 results. Norleone is your winner, with Joshua Dufek in 2nd place, Charlie Wirtz in 3rd, Francesco Simonazzi 4th, Levente Ravesh in 5th, Cian Shields 6th, Bryce Aaron in 7th place. And this is the current look on the Drivers' Championship. Norleone now on 304 points, with Cian Shields 79 points behind on 225. Bryce Aaron on 214, 4 points behind him. Francesco Simonazzi in 4th. Juju Noda in 5th. Jakob Bergmeister 6th. Josh Mason 7th. Joshua Dufek 8th. Tim Tramnitz 9th. Charlie Wirtz now 10 points. In 10th place on 52 points, I should say. So there we are. That is the current state of affairs, given the fact that we've now had the results here given under red flag conditions here in the Euroformula Open Championship. Norleone declared the winner of this race. Joshua Dufek in 2nd, Charlie Wirtz in 3rd, and Simonazzi 4th, Levente Ravesh in 5th, Cian Shields and Bryce Aaron, who unfortunately had to go, well, they went off wide at turn 1. We saw them escape over to the far-hand side and having to go through the bollards, effectively dropping them down a series of places. And now since then, Simonazzi from 6th on the grid moves his way up to 4th, but Leone Dufek and Wirtz. No change at the top here, Chris.
Yes, and I wonder, what this is going to do for the rest of the GT Sport series that we have to run today. Obviously, we've got the GT Cup that's supposed to come next, and the International GT Open straight after that as well. And obviously, we're already running a bit behind schedule, so it's going to be a bit of a scramble to get everything underway. But at the moment, it doesn't look like we can get anything underway.
No, it's looking pretty dreary out there, given the fact that the water is now certainly sitting on top of the track, and then we've got more being thrown upon it by the freak weather that we have upon us, as now we see the cars line up in Parc Ferme, so they are going to put them in their placings here at this point.
It's just a string of red lights. that previous shot from the back of the cars and the flag panels, the starting lights lit up in red as well.
Yeah, Charlie Wirtz now about to get himself out of the car as well, just making sure the wheel stays in. Noel Leone immediately skips in to weigh in at this point before he'll then be standing by as the cameras get a shot of the drivers making their way into the garages, of course, trying to get themselves out of the damp conditions. Of course, we got Alfredo Filipponi standing by as well. But yes, towels definitely necessary.
Yes, quite. Wonder how easy it is to slip off the halo in these conditions. I mean, they obviously the boots they wear are quite high grip, but yeah, it would be easy to take a tumble. So just take it easy out there, guys. But Noel looks pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he qualified on pole position, brought it back on top as well. And we'll take you through the top three. Noel Leone is your race winner. Of course, no one could really stop him. Your victor here at Monza. We had Joshua Dufek in second place. Third went to Charlie Wirtz. He, of course, featuring on the podium. And we've got Leone standing by with Alfredo Filipponi.
Noel Leone, that was a sort of a race, right?
Yeah, really short. I mean, nothing much to say, to be honest. Happy to get the points. Then I hope tomorrow we can race.
It was impossible, right?
Yeah, I think so. The race director did an amazing decision to stop to put the safety car on the lap that the rain comes quite heavy. So we need to say thank you to the race director, because they did the best decision for the conditions, and then at the end was impossible to race. So really good job from all the staff, and then let's see if tomorrow we can race.
Let's hope for tomorrow.
Yes.
And you are wet.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, there we are, and wonderful comments from Noel Leone. Let's take you through the highlights. Certainly the safety car played a paramount role here in this race. Race one here at Monza, getting us underway under safety car procedure as well. We saw one of the visor tear-offs, a few visor tear-offs in fact, at use already from the get-go. But as the race went on and we got back underway under green flag conditions, it was Noel Leone who got the best jump of all, but Joshua Dufek wasn't too far away either. Challenged side by side, but Leone with the tiger line heading through towards turn 1 and turn 2. Charlie Wirtz had to take the escape road in order to, well, make his way out of the corner in one piece. He, of course, struggled to under braking ever so slightly. We saw Noel Leone step out a little bit, heading out of the second. Lesmo, of course, very nearly losing the rear. Of course, Joshua Dufek following suit. Charlie Wirtz also trying to get himself into the mix. Simonazzi also tried to close up as well in the cars ahead of him, as we then saw Noel Leone still consolidate his advantage up at the front end. Bryce Aaron also careered off circuit 2, ended up having to take a wider line. Cian Shields doing exactly the same, allowing Simonazzi to move up to 4th in the proceedings, just in behind that of Charlie Wirtz as they entered the Curva Grande. But the red flag was waved due to the deluge that we faced here at Monza, the rain cascading down here at the circuit, which led to Noel Leone leading the way, and under red flag conditions was brought out into the pits and was named the victor. Well, Charlie Wirtz, under damp conditions here, 3rd place on the grid. I'm sure they would, this is not necessarily the weather to be stood outside, and I'm sure they'd agree.
At least I got the caps.
Yeah, Joshua Dufek in 2nd as well. Noel Leone 1st on the podium too. And usual procedure here at this point. I want to applaud Noel Leone and his comments as well made about the race director, and I do wholeheartedly agree with him. It was well managed, I think, Chris.
Absolutely. Right calls were 100% made, and obviously safety is absolutely paramount. It's always the first consideration in these types of situations, and yeah, judged, I think, perfectly well. So yeah, well done to everyone in race control, and look at the podium ceremony. We're getting the shortened version of it because the Pirelli representative does not want to be out there for too long, and they have the Mexican national anthem as well.
Well, that's the end of the show, everybody, here in race one. Noel Leone's your victor, but join us tomorrow when we go racing twice more here in the Euroformula Open Championship.